Mr. Hale.
Mr. Caldwell. Happy Mojo Monday.
It is Mojo Monday, our favorite time of the week. And why do we do it on Monday? I think it's just getting the mindset right at the beginning of the week, right? Like you're supposed to allow your brain to rest over the weekend and just kind of calm down. And most of us don't, but we're supposed to. I don't know, but Monday shows up, and by definition, it's the first day of the week for work. And you want to start the week with the mindset right? Like, what do you think about when I say that?
Well, if the mindset's right, the body usually follows. So whatever the energy from inside, it's hard to do anything unique in the outside world or in the physical, tangible, executable world without first having the thought and the energy and the motivation from inside. So it's an inside job first. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So our topic today, we're going to talk about leading and lagging indicators. However, Rick, we were preparing for this conversation, and I was kind of asking myself, well, who created this? Like, where did this come from? And I thought it came from Stephen Covey's Four Disciplines of Execution. We started researching. I'm not really sure it came from anywhere. I think it actually is old as dirt. What do you think?
Maybe literally, because
Yeah.
yeah, the more we talked about it, we're like, man, I bet some of the early, settlers and the people in primitive times, they'd go, if you were into farming, which was if you didn't farm, you didn't eat, you didn't survive. So, farming was like job one back in the day. You didn't just roll into Publix or Kroger. And so it occurred to us in the conversation, like, I bet the leading lagging indicators thought goes back to even way beyond way,
Yeah.
because if you don't, find the right soil, till it up properly, apply the right, seeds, fertilize, water, if all you focused on was the crop, you're going to fail. You have to focus on the grind, the process, and the order. And there's always a formula or an algorithm for any riddle, and farming probably being the oldest riddle on the planet.
Well, now that you're saying this, the farmer's almanac's popping in my head, right? Like they've been tracking leading indicators and lag indicators from the beginning of time, and putting paper to pen and paying attention to numbers and metrics and what causes things to succeed is a age old principle, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it is, and success leaves clues,
Right.
especially if you're paying attention and you document, top grade, improve, modify, and you constantly and part of the process is not quitting, and then and so this is not only a global conversation around, to your point, the Farmer's Almanac, which was an amazing resource, as time went on, because there's cycles. I mean, there's certain things that I guess enhance the odds you succeed. And there's certain things that if you do will absolutely deflate the potential that you have for success. And
Yeah.
so on a personal level, there's things that you do well and some you don't do as well, that if you modify slightly, you probably get a completely different outcome. So paying attention and tracking and trending, which is what the almanac's all about, is vital to success.
So you said something interesting, and we're off script here, not or we didn't prep this. So, but you said that there were cycles, and the farmers have good years and bad years, and the crops. Some years provided great fruit, and some years it might not have. And here we are in an economic cycle while we're recording this, and it just goes to show that's life.
Yeah.
There's going to be good years, there's going to be off years. You should still track your numbers. You should still focus on how do you succeed and document, right? Because the documentation takes the guessing out of it. It gives the energy that we need, right?
Yeah, we just got, my wife just had a birthday and we traveled to Vancouver and drove over to a town in Canada called Kelowna, and it's a really cool lake community. and they're blessed because who knew this? I didn't. But when we got there's like a dozen really popular, well-known wineries in that region of Canada, and it's a rare blend of humidity and temperature. And but interestingly enough, they had a massive freeze, which is random and rare. It's that natural disaster you were talking about, like,
Yeah.
leading and lagging. There are formulas and you can track your numbers and succeed, but every now and then a natural disaster or circumstance, a shift in the market shows up, and you've got to modify behavior to win. And it doesn't mean throw it completely out the window. It may be doubling down. It may be changing, the input to get a different output, or maybe starting, your approach differently, or your conversations are different. But interestingly, after that freeze last year, they had to decide: do you continue to? There's some leaves on the vine still in certain wineries, and the winemakers are sharing the story, the sommelier. But in some cases, you have to tear it out and start over, and they literally have to reintroduce or even splice in a different plant to help reinvigorate and readapt and bring back the life of the vine. And these are 50, 60, 100-year-old vines that were imported and planted because those are the best of the best in the winemaking world. And
Yeah.
so I think the cool application is in your world, in your mind, is this a tear up the crop and start over, or do you need to splice in something different? Or is there still hope that if you keep watering and fertilizing, you're going to bear fruit again the way you expect and want?
Yeah. So let's take this to business for a minute. And honestly, this is not, is a holistic conversation, right? Like it
It
really
is.
is. You may think we're speaking in analogies, but it's honestly, it's a success principle conversation. Um, we're in an economic period where we slowed down. I actually believe we're at a moment in time where we're starting to recover. Regardless, how does leading and lagging indicators create the success plan for somebody going forward, regardless if you're in an abundance environment or a scarcity environment? There's still the same conversations. You just have to turn it up and strategize. And to your point, do you tear it down and start over, or do you splice in some new strategy and go forward?
And it could be a yes. Certain aspects might be in your world and in your business might need to be torn down. Some might need to be modified. And one thing I've learned, Brett, is that there's 4 questions to ask about your life or any initiative that really solve every riddle. And it's no, have, do, or who. And
Yeah.
so my advice is take a hard look, be honest, and determine where things are going well, where they're not going well. And does the top grading or improvement look like a no, like something you need to know? Is it a have, a tool, a resource, or some external or new approach using a vehicle, or again a tool, maybe technology? Have, is it, do you need to have something in your world that supports that? And then the do is, what do you need to do differently? And the most important question for some of us who have had success is recognizing that it's a who question. There's somebody, either maybe it's a referral source, maybe it's a strategic partner, an alliance partner, maybe it's a new team member that brings an element of asset to your experience that helps illuminate opportunity based on the current scheme or market we're in.
Beautiful. As we're talking, I'm just sitting here thinking, what would I be thinking about if I was listening to our conversation today? Maybe it is a who, maybe it is a have, maybe it is a do. And what was your fourth one?
It was know, have, do, and who. So
And
know
who? Yeah.
something, maybe it's knowledge, maybe
Yeah.
there's a world of evolution that happens, and the laggards don't survive. I mean, look at Kodak, and Polaroid, and they didn't reinvent fast enough. And so what I've learned also is that success happens slowly, and then all of a sudden it's sudden, and the world thinks you just landed there and it was easy because all they see is your success. And the reality is that it was the late night grind, the never ending belief, and the constant focus on leading indicators that eventually led to the lagging indicator, which is nothing more than that, stepping up onto the podium at the Olympics. I mean, we're in the heart of the Olympic season. You're only awarded, it's like literally the work you did, you won that medal in the late night hours, not actually at the performance, because it led to it. And then you accept the prize and everyone thinks you're great and you just are gifted. And reality is you probably had to grind it out. So back to the process of recognizing what you can and can't control. That's the secret to understanding the magic in the leading versus lagging. You can't control the day you get the medal. That's just, you're awarded the success that you've earned. The
Yeah.
leading is all of the late night practices, the coaching, the modifying form and technique, the way you get after it, maybe the way you use your day planner and how you apply time and resource.
We live in this instant gratification human behavior.
Mm,
Like everybody is wanting to win the lottery. They're wanting to find the shortcut. They're wanting to find that quantum leap that, boom, I'm successful. And the truth is, that's not how life happens. That's like
mm,
we only see a 5 minute clip of somebody performing in a sporting event or in the Olympics, to your point, or the moment they're on stage at a rock concert, right? Like you're like, oh wow, that's the quantum leap. Look, they're awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
You didn't watch them in the grind. You didn't observe the grit that it took to get there. And the grind and the grit is really what we're talking about. It's not the actual game time. It's not the medals podium. It's not the championship trophy or the giant stadium concert. It's the grind and the grit that the leading and the lagging indicators got them there.
absolutely. And I think the biggest secret in all of that is not quitting. And it's funny how I've pondered quitting a lot lately because I'm constantly going, okay, some things are good to quit because they're not supporting the initiative and the outcome you want, and they're not attached to the leading indicator side of what will ultimately bring success. But I think there's a phenomenon called micro quitting. And take a hard look in the mirror. How often do you distract yourself from the mission of the day and the motive and what you're out to accomplish? By simply letting the world dictate your schedule and the world push you around and take you off task and off of your plan. And so micro quitting is just every hour that you give away to something irrelevant is an hour that didn't benefit and compound the return on doing the right
Yeah.
things and embracing the grind inevitably.
I read a book a while back by Annie Duke, and she's a World Series professional poker player, and the book was called Quit. And I remembered having like a weird reaction around this book, like I don't quit. I stick it through. Failing is only if you quit. And she made an interesting perspective. She said, if you're actually good at playing poker, you quit more than you play.
Mm,
And she said the whole concept of folding your cards when the numbers say you shouldn't win or you shouldn't go forward actually is more important than the times you do go forward. And if
right.
you think about that in business, that's the micro quitting, right? Like maybe we should be quitting some of these things that aren't effective at getting us to success and going harder or all in or more grit or more grind on the things that we know will get us there. And the only way we know what we can analyze and decide the difference is the leading and lag indicators.
Yeah, if you know the algorithm, the formula that'll work for you in the current scheme or market, you just have to double down and lean into the winning proposition, and then quit the things that are just interfering and delaying the inevitable win that you have. And part of the battle is also to not give up, because the magic could be, that we also teach conversion rates and tracking your numbers. We mentioned it earlier, and if it's every 100 calls you're going to get one piece of business or two or 3%
Yeah.
return is kind of a common advertiser's metric. It would really be sad that in a market like we're in today, where things are a little slower, you might be 95 steps into this process and then decide it's just not working and quit right before the magic happens. So I would caution that, because man, there's such a narrow margin between success and failure in our world, when an average commission might run anywhere from 5, 6, 7,000 to 15 or 20. And so that changes everything. One extra person out of 6 million in our metropolitan area can change the whole trajectory of how you feel about yourself, your business, and the potential success that's around the corner when you do it again.
Yeah. Rick, I feel like maybe we should take a step back for a second and just create some definition around leading and lag indicators in case somebody's
Sure.
hearing this for the first time or the 100th time. Give me some clarity around leading and lag indicators.
Well, leading are the small steps or the behaviors that lead to a result. And I think we sort of set the stage by saying, farming as an example. If
Yeah.
you're literally farming for your dinner, your food, provide for your family, the leading indicators are when you plant, what you plant, where you plant, and then how you tend the field along the way as you nurture that opportunity. The overlay in the lagging, by the way, would just be the actual physical crop that you get to enjoy, sell, or share and or ingest. And so in real estate, there's no difference, in terms of the concept. It's, establishing a database, realizing that if you don't communicate with your database, it's strictly a directory and not relational, and it's not going to build goodwill and reciprocity. So you've got to then set up touch strategies, whether it's a 36, 39, and you have to prescribe what strategy you think works best for you and for the consumer. But again, some things you can't control are the environment, and natural disasters may require that you amend your percentage, the way you look at that leading indicator. You may have to double down. Instead of 1,000 people in your database, you may need 5,000. But then it comes down to communicating, connecting, and also having conversations that matter, that lead to either referrals or actual repeat, new business.
Yeah. So let's kind of wrap this conversation up around communication.
Let's go.
So communication, you might be thinking that your definition is, oh, here's two people communicating in conversation, or we're communicating with you as a listener. But sometimes communication is just the simple fact of taking a score or taking writing down numbers. So you're communicating with yourself and you're paying attention to what matters. And communication's usually two-way, but you can think of the two-way in terms of the numbers and you're communicating with the numbers. And that's why leading and lag indicators is inside of that conversation around communication, because without it, you're not communicating. You're just playing, or you're out there doing activities, which is a good thing, but there's no communication if you're not taking score or paying attention to key metrics or key indicators or leading and lag indicators. They're all kind of the same thing, yet
Yeah.
it's really a communication game. And once you get back to your portion, Rick, where you were talking about who, it's crucial you communicate when you have other people involved in the game. But if you're an individual playing the game, you are the communication with the numbers. What would you say?
Here's what I want everyone to hear today. Anyone can win. Everyone can win. And the catch is, if you're not tracking your numbers, you don't know the algorithm or the formula for your own personal success. And so the leading indicator are the steps that lead to a lagging result that ultimately, again, is the prize. But if you hang your hat on lagging exclusively and you don't track your numbers, you won't know where things are working and where things are failing. And you won't modify your behavior soon enough or effective enough in the know, have, do, who, question around that initiative. You won't have the context to be able to modify your direction or trajectory and change those micro behaviors that lead to success. Because just a reminder, man, success is slow and then sudden, and people often quit before the magic. But if you know your numbers and you can draw a line in the sand and go, for every this number of contacts and communications in this strategy, they'll lead to this. If times get tough and all of a sudden it's not working, you might need to double down. You might need to increase the frequency. You might also need to increase or improve the message and the way you're communicating to be timely, effective, and adding, contributory and adding value to each conversation you have. So there's a quality and a quantity component, but if you're not paying attention, you're not tracking your leading indicators, the lagging may actually end up being an anchor that holds you back, and then you freeze, and that never works. Doing nothing solves nothing.
There you go. So what I hope you heard is you should absolutely be playing the game at the highest level, and tracking the numbers means you're playing the game at the highest level. Communicating is paying attention to the numbers if it's you, communicating the numbers with team members if it's more than one. And then, Rick, the best part is don't quit before the magic happens.
That's it, man. Great summary. It's
There
a
you
people
go.
puzzle. Your business is to generate relationships with more people. You do that, you'll create an outcome to be proud of.
Rock and roll. So I don't know. It's Monday. Happy
It's
Mojo
Mojo
Monday.
Monday. Come on.